I'm Tom Wujek, co-host of Buffalo After Dark. Founded by Matthew Keeler, Dishin is a Buffalo-based fashion label focusing on continuous experimentation in hockey. Their work consists of products, content, and experiences that inspire creativity. Playful curation provides energy that sparks a unique perspective and an ideology around seeing the game differently. Now you can save. Log on to justdishin.com and use promo code WUJEK at checkout. You'll save 10% on all of your purchases. That is spelled W-U-J-E-K. Dishin has built an influential following devoted to the infusion of creative expression through high-quality goods and tasteful collaboration. If you love creative products that push the boundaries, check out Dishin. Visit their website at justdishin.com. This is Buffalo's Uncensored Sports Show. You're watching Buffalo After Dark. Welcome aboard Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It is Wednesday night, January 17th. And of course, if you're in Buffalo, you're probably getting the living crap kicked out of you by the snow. We'll talk a little bit about the Sabres postponement because now that's two sport events we've had postponed in the last 5 days. But anyways, with that being said, we won't have much Sabres to talk about tonight now. But of course, my nice little counterpart here is here joining us again as usual, Mr. Tiny Hands Hansen. How's it going?
I'm good. First off, go fuck yourself. And second, hopefully everybody up in Western New York and Southern Ontario is okay from the snowstorm. I heard all about it. I kept track about it for the Bills game. Yeah, I just want to be sure you guys are okay, and that's all that matters. Hopefully, generators are working. Everybody's got food and like bread and milk. Everybody, stay home, stay safe if you can. And it's going to be a wild couple of days for you guys. And I heard you guys are getting into the storm, so just be safe out there.
Yeah, so of course, a couple places, Lackawanna got almost 30 inches of snow last night, or actually almost 31. And then on top of it, it actually came up into my neck of the woods for a little bit today. So I had about good 6 inches of snow, and then before it shifted south. But yeah, south towns are getting hit again. So, same thing. Stay safe. And hey, you got us for another hour. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started. If you guys want to jump on the air, feel free, give us a shout, 92920566099. And of course, if you want to see us on the go, check out Spotify because we do have all of our episodes from this season up on there. And of course, we got YouTube. So, of course, with that being said, let's jump right into football and we'll get everything kicked off. And of course, the biggest thing that we had, the Bills have defeated the Steelers. It was a pretty good matchup, 31-17. So, of course, the Bills move on. They're going to take on the Chiefs finally at our house and not at Arrowhead. And what I was going to say, I would have loved if Rob could have jumped on, and because I would have loved to hear his take on his beloved Steelers, and especially George Pickens giving a freaking hissy fit and throwing that helmet after that so-called nice little catch that he claimed was pass interference. That was not pass interference, and then he claimed he got hit by a snowball.
Well, it's funny. I was just thinking the same thing. I'm like, hopefully Rob could come on tonight because I know he's gonna want to throw his opinion on there for the game, but things happen and you can't control what you can't control, and that's really the only thing we can really accommodate with. So that's why you have us two on here. So, as far as the game goes, I'm not gonna lie. Even though the Bills won by two touchdowns, I genuinely felt at one point, and maybe you might have felt the same way I did, is I genuinely felt the Steelers were going to come back and beat the Bills. I genuinely thought that was going to be the case.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, they did have a pretty good run, especially a little bit early on. But when you have the turnovers that you had, I mean, that's what killed them straight up. And Bills capitalized on it.
Well, I mean, I think the only reason why Pittsburgh made the score a lot closer than it looked was simply because of that blocked field goal. And that's when all the momentum was in play. And I thought immediately when that play happened, I genuinely thought that the Steelers were going to come back and win the game. I genuinely thought they were going to pull off what the Cowboys did. Oh my God. And
Yeah,
yeah, what the
that's
Cowboys
another
did was just
story.
embarrassing. But this is the Bills. But everybody expected the Bills to win, and I think a good portion of the country predicted the Bills to win, and they did. So I think that a lot of people are riding on the hot hand and saying, Josh Allen played probably one of the better games that he's
Mhm.
played in the playoffs. And my oh my, he had a great game on Monday.
Yeah, how about that 50+ yard touchdown run that earned him Nickelodeon's MVP?
Yep, and that was just announced that Josh Allen was in fact named the Super Wild Card Nickelodeon's Most Valuable Player Award. And I
Yeah.
think the inaugural winner was actually Mitch Trubisky, which was funny enough. I think this was like 2018 or 2019 or something like that.
Mhm.
So the trophy, like the award is not that old its own, but to have Josh Allen win it, I think it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. And then how about that touchdown by Shakir?
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh,
Dude,
that was beautiful.
Dude, I literally thought Shakir went down, and then I saw the replay. I'm like, Jesus, what is this, Khalil Shakir, or did he just become a reincarnation of Walter Payton?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that he was able to not go down on that tackle and the fact that he was still able to fight off a defender
God Almighty!
and still get
But
like 10 yards, that was even better.
yeah, right. It's just insane. And quick update: Sam Reinhart has just scored the first goal, and it's 1-0 Florida over the Red Wings.
There we go. So, yeah, if anyone's wondering what happened with the Sabres Blackhawks game, guess what? It was canceled due to snow because there's still a driving ban in the city. So, of course, now on TNT, you get Detroit and Florida tonight.
Yeah, but you know what? I think we'll survive. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, though, no, Khalil Shakir, that was a great touchdown. I thought the defense played great in the first half. I kind of felt that the second half was turning into a bad omen. I felt like there were like bad vibes going on
Mhm.
in terms of all the injuries. And luckily for the Bills, may the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, a
Mhm.
lot of the injuries are not severe, which is
Right.
great to hear. So the one that really stood out from the crowd was Terrell Bernard. And everybody thought when
Oh,
Bernard
yeah.
went down, everyone's like, fuck, the season is over. The playoffs are over. But it's like, well, we're hoping that he's okay. I mean, that was the important factor. Same with
Mhm.
Joey Porter Jr. on the Steelers. We're hoping he's okay.
Yeah.
But no, so it turns out that his x-rays came back and it turned out to be negative. So maybe his injury was not as serious as people thought it was. And Sean McDermott already said there's a chance that he plays on Sunday versus Kansas City. So they're
Yeah.
going to play it day by day. And I think that's the appropriate way of
Mhm.
handling it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Bernard can go, then that's huge. I mean, that's a big help for it. I mean, Kansas City is beat up right now, also. So they're trying to get everyone back as much as they can. But one of the other things that came out of it, Sam Martin got hurt in the game on that one blocked kick. And why in the fuck did you bring back Matt Hawk when the punt god was out there?
It's funny because I actually thought about this earlier today, and I'm thinking, why did you bring Matt Hawk back? Simple for one reason only, because he knew the system with Tyler Bass and he had good chemistry with him. But I know a lot of people were on the bandwagon, including myself, that were saying that they wanted to bring in Matt Ariza, bring in the punt god, do what's right, Bills. And then I thought about it logically. I'm like, as much as I don't like the idea they brought Matt Hawk over Matt Ariza, a lot of people don't realize that Ariza hasn't even played a snap in the NFL level with the Bills, all because of the allegations from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, he only did have the one preseason game, and that was against Carolina, I believe, and where he had that 82-yard punt.
No, it wasn't Carolina because
Or
that was when he got cut. I think it was actually against Indianapolis, if I remember correctly.
okay, yeah, because Carolina, that was the week after. So,
Yeah,
all right,
because it was like a week or two after the Panthers traded for Baker Mayfield at the time. But
yeah, and
that's
I think it was the night before the game that they actually ended up cutting him because of the fact that I think it was a Saturday night game or Saturday afternoon game, and then they cut him that
yeah, it
Friday
was.
after the allegations came out.
I remember it being in late August when because this was like a month after Britt and I got married. And we just got a brand new refrigerator that day. And I remember we were coming home and I said, Britt, we gotta go home and watch this Bills game. Because we watch preseason games too. And I know that's
Yeah,
kind of
same
stupid
here.
and it's kind of silly to do that, but when you're two kids from Long Island in their late 20s, early 30s, and you don't get the access like that you guys do up the north,
Mhm.
it's kind of silly because I have to stare at Aaron Rodgers for a whole fucking year, and then I have to stream Bills preseason games. So
Right.
I'm fine with that personally. But I think we're getting a little sidetracked here, and that is with Hawk, with him coming back, is it the best decision in the world? Probably not. Was he the best punter available? Yes. But the only reason I would think, and I said it before, was the only reason they brought back Matt Hawk was specifically because he had experience with Tyler Bass 2 years ago. And I don't expect him to really play. I think he's just there as insurance.
Mhm. It could be. I mean, especially if Martin's ready to go and he's cleared, then of course Martin's going to play. I mean, that's a given. But thinking about it, I'm like, all right, yes, we could have brought Hawk back. Well, we did bring Hawk back. We could have brought the Punk God back. But then, if you figure he only had preseason snaps, and this is almost a year and a half ago, so
Yeah,
then
and Tyler Bass was really the only kicker the Bills really had.
right. But then what I would also think is in the offseason, whenever that may be, I'd be on the phone and apparently the Bills have been checking in with Ariza. And if I'm the Bills, I'm like, hey, punt God, come back. We'll
I
give you
think
a
they
deal.
had their chance. I don't really know. I mean, I know they had good communications with Riza throughout the season, but I don't know if he'd be interested because of all the actions that the Bills took on him. But this was also at a time with all the criminal allegations. But
Mhm.
who knows at this point? But the main reason would be because it's to restore a narrative. But
Right.
in my
Very
opinion,
true.
I think the Bills should have went with Ariza. But at the same time, logically, bringing Hawk back make a lot more sense. Honestly.
Yeah, and at least looking into stuff with Ariza a little bit further, there is a good thing, and he ended up basically saying, I'm not mad at the Bills. I understand what happened. It was all business, and he didn't have any grudges against us. And of course, I mean, the team said that he had to take care of what he needed to take care of at the time. So who knows? There may be still something there. Brad from the Louisville area is on here, one of my good buddies, and he brings up a good point. What about AJ Klein missing vacation of play? He had a hell of a good game.
I'm going to say this now. AJ Klein had no business being that good on Sunday. I'm just saying that now.
That
For
was
a
great.
guy for a guy who was told last minute, "Hey, can you come play for us for a little bit just so that we actually have some linebacker depth?" And I'm perfectly okay with this. And I know some people have strong opinions about Bale Spector and then AJ Klein. I know that they don't have Matt Milano, but again, Klein is I think in his fourth or fifth stint with the
Mm-hmm.
Bills.
Yeah,
And
he
it's
knows the
mainly
system.
because he knows the system and he's a veteran. He knew the system with under McDermott. So it's not like he was going in there as a brand new player and to be like, oh, fuck, what do I do now? And then it cost them the game. Like I knew, and going back to what I said before about, the Steelers possibly coming back. And that is when all the backups were pretty much in play. They were down Bernard, they were down Benford, they were down pretty much everybody at that point and the Steelers were starting to come back. That was when I got nervous. And AJ Klein was out there on that first drive after they scored. I think it was the second touchdown they scored at that time when it was like 17-24 or 24-17 at that time. But I just remember all this and I'm thinking, shit, here we go again. And then they started to settle down, they started to adjust, and AJ Klein from there just played great, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, especially since he had virtually no notice and he showed up and he was ultra competitive. I mean, great depth signing. We needed it at the time that we needed it. So that's a big plus. And then looking ahead, I mean, to Kansas City, that's got to be a war on the field, but at least instead of Arrowhead like the last several seasons, now it's finally going to be here. And of course, even funnier, watch Taylor Swift will probably be writing a breakup song with good old Travis Kelsey after they lose.
Yeah, a lot of people are already writing off the Bills, saying that, oh, they're trying to set up a Kansas City Super Bowl with Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift. Well, okay, so if that were to happen, then it would be for all the wrong reasons. So I think for Buffalo, they got a chance to bring something they were not able to do within the 5-6 years rivalry with Patrick Mahomes. Because
Mhm.
every other year, with until up to this point, every game was in Kansas City except for one, which was during the 2020 pandemic, which
Mhm.
was when it was in Buffalo. There were no fans at that time. So things were very bleak with fan attendance. But then looking back at it now, now that they're going to get a chance to host a playoff game, I fully 100% expect Bills Mafia to go down to Orchard Park and bring it with full force. I really genuinely
Mhm.
do. I mean, there will be Chiefs fans at the game, and I know a couple of buddies of mine that are Chiefs fans, and some of them will
Mhm.
make the games, others won't. But the people that live in Orchard Park, that live in downtown Buffalo, they will most certainly be there, and they will be there supporting the team.
Yeah, and actually, one of my longtime friends is a Chiefs fan, also, so I could tell you that. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm thinking the Bills should be able to hold off the Chiefs and win, and move forward, and that's especially playing here, and the weather's not going to be that great, so that'll be a big plus, hopefully, in our side of things. But let's do a little walk around the NFL because there was some interesting wild card games this past weekend, and one of the big ones, the Texans and the Browns, and the Texans just annihilated Cleveland 45-14.
I picked the Browns to win that game, and it did not go well at all.
No,
So
CJ Stroud lit it up.
yeah, Britt and I did our episode of Pick'em Tuesdays yesterday, and I said Cleveland was going to be Houston, and she said the Texans. And I told my wife, I'm like, I'm banking on the Browns defense to beat Houston because of the inexperience. Nobody really knew anything about Houston at that time. They were just fortunate to be there. And then Houston just annihilates the fuck out of the Browns. And I'm just thinking, did the Linsanity run just magically end? Because the
Yeah.
Browns were one of the hottest teams going into the playoffs, and people were saying, "Oh, everybody should be afraid of Cleveland because they're going to be really good on defense." I'm like, "Well, are you forgetting their quarterback is Joe Flacco?" I mean, I got suckered in, honestly, in that time. I got suckered in, and I feel like a fucking idiot for actually picking the Browns to beat the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, I even thought about it the same way. I thought that Cleveland was going to just do a better job, and they straight up didn't. Stroud showed up, and he carried that team on his back, and they got to the promised land on that one. So good job to the Texans. I mean, it's going to get tougher for them, but of course, the game we all love as Bills fans because we absolutely fucking hate the Dolphins.
Oh
The
yeah.
Chiefs beat the Dolphins at Arrowhead with that -20, whatever you want to call it, wind chill and everything else.
Yeah,
And
-20 wind chill, and it was -2 degrees. And
yeah,
it was the fourth coldest game in NFL history.
yep, the frozen field, and they won 26-7. And then, of course, the Dolphins fans were talking about us with our game being moved to that Monday. And they're like, oh, you should be able to play in it or you have to forfeit. It's like, screw you, Miami.
Yeah, really. Dolphins fans will look for any excuse to try to scrutinize with Bills fans.
Yeah.
Like they say, "Oh, you're afraid of the sun." Oh yeah, well, you're afraid of the fucking snow. You got your ass
Mhm.
beat in a playoff game.
Yeah. And actually, you guys had worse weather than we did. We had snow, and at least it was still positive temperatures. You guys had to deal in the really frozen tundra.
Well, Kansas City is not really a frozen tundra, but the one time it
Mhm.
actually was probably perfect for Miami. I don't think it would have made a difference because the Dolphins were so dismantled with injuries. Like I think like at least over 20 of their starters were injured.
Yeah.
And it was so bad that Tua Tagovailoa, who we all love to pick on as the shittiest quarterback in that division next to Mac Jones.
Mhm.
And Tua does have wins under his belt. He's a hell of a lot better than Mac Jones, but
Oh
Tua
yeah.
cannot close games out. He cannot carry a team. And there's been a huge identity crisis in Miami. Oh, should they trade for Kyler Murray? Should they trade Tua? Who should be the new, quarterback for the Dolphins? All that bullshit. The Chiefs, in my opinion, I think only got to where they are because they were playing a banged up Dolphins team. So I don't really think that Kansas City really poses a threat. Like, yeah, they're the defending champions, but I strongly think that they will bring their A game to Buffalo. But the weather in Orchard Park is so different compared to Arrowhead Stadium when we went. And
Yeah.
it's usually in January, not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, we went in October and it was actually really comfortable out, but you get the swirling winds, especially in January up here. I mean, good luck, but no, it's interesting like how that whole thing went down. And then of course on top of it, Steelers fans were saying, "Oh, well, you should have to play the game in Pittsburgh if you can't play it in Buffalo." It's like, "Fuck you, Steelers. You ain't getting home field advantage. You're the 7 seed, not the 2 seed."
Yeah, really. Like, oh, so basically their argument is, oh, because there's snow, you should play the game in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, Ed Oliver actually made a comment about that, and he said that, oh, Steelers fans were hoping we play on Sunday because of the advantage of the snow. and they were trying to write this as a legacy game for Najee Harris. And I'm just thinking to myself, it wouldn't matter because Buffalo would still whoop your ass.
Yeah, and Najee Harris didn't do much anyway. So there's the point. It's just
Yeah,
he
and
was ineffective.
yeah, but I think going back to the Dolphins is Tyreek Hill, quote unquote, got his revenge for getting a touchdown against his old team. But I think the whole purpose of a revenge game is to not only carry the team, but to also win the game. And the
Mhm.
Dolphins failed on that miserably.
Yeah, they did. They did. And then on top of it, then we look at some of the other games. And this one, I absolutely had to laugh because the Cowboys got their ass handed to them 48-32. And it was so bad to the point where Green Bay sat their starters in the second half.
That is so embarrassing. Like, I'll put
It
it this
is.
way. My brother-in-law, one of my best friends on my job, my cousins, and several of my good friends outside of my job are behemoth Cowboys fans, diehards in that matter. And they were all telling me this is their year. They were all telling me this is a different Cowboys team, this and that. And it was so bad that Britt and I both picked the Cowboys to win on Sunday. And I am so glad I was wrong about this because of the fact that the Cowboys not only exposed themselves as frauds,
Mhm.
they also have put a huge target on their back because you know what's going to happen next year? Nobody, even if they're above 500, nobody's going to take them seriously at this point. How the fuck did the Cowboys win the NFC East just almost a week ago or almost 2 weeks ago within the last day? And you take the biggest egg and you shit all over it at your home turf in which you claimed to be undefeated at home and you get your ass beat by a rookie quarterback.
He didn't look like a damn rookie, I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah. Same thing with CJ Stroud, but it's like,
Yeah.
and now people are asking, are the Packers legit or were the Cowboys just playing like shit?
It's a good question. It's a good question. But if you want to know who really played like shit, look at the Philadelphia Eagles and how they had the epic collapse to Baker Mayfield 32-9
When
against
you
the
lose to
Bucks.
when you lose to Baker Mayfield and also lose 6 of your last 7, this is a serious problem.
Yeah. And
This
somehow
is a
Sirianni's
serious
still
problem.
and somehow Sirianni's still the head coach there.
Yeah, and it's gotten so bad too that him and GM Harry Roseman both asked the NFL to help them find coordinators to replace Sean Desai as defensive coordinator and Brian Johnson as offensive coordinator. You know it's bad in Philly when you have a head coach and general manager combo tell you in your face that, hey, Roger Goodell, can you help us out finding coordinators?
Yeah. Very true. And then of course they're gonna not have Jason Kelsey going forward because he actually retired right after the game
Mm.
on Monday.
Actually, he didn't retire. He actually went on his podcast, New Heights, with his brother, and or whatever that show is called. And he actually said to Jason, sorry, to Travis Kelsey, he said to Travis Kelsey, he basically said, "Look, I didn't really say I was retiring, but if I'm gonna say I'm gonna retire, I want to do it my way. I don't want the
Mhm.
media knowing about it. It's kind of like what
Right.
Tom Brady did a couple years ago.
Yeah. And I mean, and if now here's the thing, if Kelsey truly does retire, he had a hell of a good career, I'll tell you that.
Listen, he had a great career in Philly, and he's gonna be a legend. He's gonna end up in Canton. There's no question
Mhm.
about that.
Yep, certainly.
But
Eh, Oh, go ahead.
but oh, I'm sorry. Okay. No, what I was gonna say was that Eagles team was a goddamn disgrace. How the hell did the Eagles go 10-1 in the first half of the year? Okay, 10-1, and you look like Super Bowl contenders, the best team in the NFL
Hmm.
through that time frame, and then magically you just start losing games.
The Bills exposed him because the Bills almost beat him, and then after that, it was all downhill for the Eagles.
I mean, nobody should be taking the Eagles seriously at this point. And also, I should also mention that 2 of the last 3 years that Nick Sirianni's been the head coach, they've lost in the first round to the Buccaneers twice.
Yeah, with different QBs.
One to Tom Brady, one to Baker Mayfield. How the fuck did the Buccaneers humiliate the Eagles that bad? It was so bad. Did you see the video that went around viral lately?
Yeah, that was great.
Which one? Do you know? You know which one I'm talking about?
Uh, which one are you talking about? Because there's a few of them.
The one I'm talking about was after the game when the Buccaneers eliminated the Eagles officially. There was an Eagles fan in the first row, like right near the entrance where they come out of the locker room. There was an Eagles fan who threw a bucket of popcorn at Nick Sirianni and told him to get the fuck out of Philly. And it got so bad that security and the cops said, arrest that guy in the jersey when there was like 80,000 fucking jerseys.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, okay, yeah, there was that one, but yeah, there was a few other ones I've also seen, but yeah, that was pretty bad. But on the flip side, Baker Mayfield, hey, you just got yourself a contract extension probably because of that performance. So and the Bucks are actually looking pretty decent because they've actually been able to build somewhat of a respectable team now.
And you know what? I think they can build off of this, honestly. I mean, Baker Mayfield, I think surprisingly, he did really well to dictate that offense. And I'm very happy for Baker. I think he rightfully deserves it.
Yeah.
But it's just insane to me that the Buccaneers, for a team that plays in one of the shittiest divisions in the National Football League, is the only team to represent the NFC South in the playoffs, and they beat the team that was considered the Super Bowl favorite.
Yeah, and they barely made it into the playoffs anyways. So they turned it up when they needed it to.
I still to this day don't understand how the fuck the Eagles collapsed that bad. And their credibility is going down so bad. Like it's almost gotten to a point where you have to question: is Jalen Hurts actually a good quarterback, or is he a system quarterback? Is he just Tua on another team, or are the Eagles fraudulent? Because these are serious
Mhm.
questions you got to ask
Right.
yourself. Because if that's the case, how the fuck did the Eagles make the Super Bowl last year?
Right. Well, it's the same question we'd have to ask the Cowboys about Dak. Is he legitimately the guy?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. The Dallas Cowboys are the first team in NFL history. They broke multiple records, by the way. The first one was they're the first team to lose to a seven seed team in the playoffs. That's number one. Number two, the Cowboys have also made the playoffs in 13 consecutive years and have never reached the conference championship in that time frame.
Yeah, it's pathetic. It's pathetic.
Seriously.
Yeah. But then the last game, and this was probably one of the best games other than the Bills kicking the Steelers' ass, but the Rams and the Lions, and that was an extremely close game. The Lions edged out the Rams 24-23. They lived to see another day. And you know what? Hey, I'm happy for Detroit because their fans are going to get another playoff game. And for the first time in 35 years, they actually won a meaningful game. And at the top of it, that team, how they've rebuilt in the last 3 seasons, and hats off to them.
You know what? Detroit, they went through a lot of hell within the last 30 years. And a lot of people were saying that Stafford got booed in his first game back as a Ram because considering it was a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Show some, honestly, if I'm a Lions fan, show some class because that guy helped you guys keep into relevance for a long time. And you guys just decided because you're all of a sudden good, you decided to spit on him like he was nothing. And they treated him like he was Carson Palmer. Like, come on, dude, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford had a great career in Detroit. They just never got over the hump or ever gave him a chance to succeed. He was a great quarterback, but he's probably the best one the Lions ever had, and that's what they do to him,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I'm happy for the Lions themselves. They they overcame their adversity of making the playoffs, winning a playoff game, and all that jazz. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
happy for the Detroit Lions. The last time the Detroit Lions won a playoff game, I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was like what 1991. So
Yeah, 1991. I
yeah, so
think
I
they
would have only been 9 years old at the time.
Yeah, I wasn't even born yet. I was born in 1992, so I didn't even know what the fuck football was.
Yeah, man, I just made myself feel old because I'm gonna be freaking 42 this summer. That's freaking weird.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it,
but no, I mean, good to see that, and good hire by Detroit to bring in Dan Campbell as the coach because he's got that locker room motivated and he's got that team wanting to play with an edge. And I mean, it's like his team, they will run through a brick wall for him. So I mean, right
yeah.
coach, right team.
Yeah, but if anybody's taking a big fat L in that situation, it's the Miami Dolphins. And really think about this because they did have Dan Campbell as an interim head coach, but they told him he wasn't good enough. So they let him go. They bring in Brian Flores. That's
Yeah.
strike one. Strike two, the Dolphins have not won a playoff game since 2000. Okay. That's now the longest playoff drought in NFL history right now. So 2000.
Yeah.
And then the,
As Nelson from The Simpsons would say,
and then the third one is they just lost the trademark to the slogan "Fins Up" to fucking Margaritaville.
okay, in the words of Nelson Muntz,
Basically,
they
I
can't
mean,
even do anything right.
no, they can't. So not only do you eat your own shit in the playoffs against Kansas City, and not only did your interim head coach just win a playoff game, but you also now have the longest drought in the current NFL.
Good job, Miami. You earned it. You are now the worst playoff record in the last 20 years.
Goddamn Miami, man. But
Uh,
but Detroit though, I'm excited for the Lions. I mean, they got a bright future ahead of them for sure. They're gonna be competitive for a while.
yeah, same here. I mean, glad to see it. I mean, them and I can just see it now. It's like them and of course Green Bay. That or wait a minute.
Yeah, Green Bay's playing San Francisco.
Okay. No, I'm thinking Detroit and Tampa then.
Yeah, Detroit plays Tampa and Green Bay plays San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then Houston plays Baltimore and Kansas City plays Buffalo.
Well, I'll tell you that Baltimore, that's gonna be a bloodbath. But no, Tampa, Detroit, that's gonna be a great matchup. Old school NFC rivalry.
Oh, without a doubt. And I will say this is that Green Bay, San Francisco are always great games. I'm just not
Mhm.
sure like who's gonna win that entirely because I think that game is gonna be a lot closer than people say it will be. And people are like, yeah, the 49ers are a great team, but prove it. Show me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And who knows? I mean, with the divisional round, I mean, I'm still thinking, of course, Buffalo's gonna beat the Chiefs. If the Texans beat the Ravens,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
that is gonna be a tough as nails matchup with the Bills and the Texans should it come to that.
You know what though? I'm gonna tell you this now. I
I'd
would
like
not
it.
I do too, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. I would not be surprised if Baltimore loses on Saturday. I would not be surprised if the Texans go to M&T Bank Stadium in downtown Baltimore
Mm-hmm.
and they shock the Ravens. I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
And because for one, the Texans are playing with house money, and two, the Ravens have expectations that are beyond the roof, maybe more than the
Yep.
49ers. And I
They're
would
without their
probably
star
say
running back, so of course Baltimore's run game is hurt.
yeah, that too. And I'm not gonna sit here and say the Ravens will lose because of Lamar Jackson. I would say the Ravens lose because of John Harbaugh. Because if you look at the previous years, I want to say the last 5 to 10 years that the Baltimore Ravens have had the first overall, they've shitted all over it. Really
Mm-hmm.
think of what they've done with the first overall in the entire NFL. They choke in the playoffs, and
Yeah.
that was before and after they got Lamar Jackson.
Right. And even in a regular season over the last few years, the Bills have kicked Baltimore's ass in the regular season. So, and that's even when Baltimore was at full strength. So then you look at it and you almost have to wonder, is Baltimore truly the team that they are? And right now, I don't think so.
I can make the same argument for San Francisco.
Mhm. Yeah, they had a bad stretch during the regular season also,
And
where
that's
Brock Purdy didn't look good.
and they got raped by the Ravens on Christmas Day.
Yes, they did.
So listen, I feel, and this is just a me thing. I am personally not a fan of giving away first round buys to teams with the first seed because of the fact of how much rest they get. And
Mhm.
yeah, you get healthy, throughout the week, but preparation is key. And great teams overaccomplish, adversity. I feel like both the 49ers and the Ravens, specifically the Ravens, I feel like they've overachieved. And I know the record says otherwise. And
Mhm.
yeah, they're a good football team, but a lot of it has to do with Lamar Jackson. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah, very true. And then of course, I mean, it's going to be an interesting weekend, but I would say besides us playing the Chiefs again, like we seem to do every year lately, I would say Detroit Tampa is going to be the game that I really, really am going to be interested in watching, seeing how Detroit handles their first time being in a divisional game in over 30 years and how Tampa's going to handle it with Baker Mayfield at the helm. Because right now, I mean, both teams, they're going to want it. It's who wants it more.
Absolutely.
And I almost have to think Detroit with how they're playing, I could seriously see them moving ahead of Tampa.
I agree. So for that, I'm taking the Lions and I'm taking the 49ers in the NFC. In the AFC, I'm going to take the Bills and I'm going to take the Texans.
Yeah, so I'm thinking Bills and Texans in the AFC, which that'll be a great matchup if that happens. I will say though, NFC, I'm going to predict a major ass upset. I'm going to predict Jordan Love lives to fight on another day and take over
Ooh.
and beat the 49ers.
Oh, dude, if that's the case, the NFC and the Super Bowl for everybody is wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I'm thinking ultimately it could come down to Buffalo and Detroit.
Oh my God. You
If
know how
that
many people
happens, if that happens, that is a must see Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm telling you, a lot of people would go nuts for a Buffalo Detroit Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be must see TV right there. And I can tell you those two teams, that would be a very nice matchup against each other with their offenses.
And their defense. But I think
Yeah,
Buffalo has I mean, I may be just being biased, but I think the Bills have a better defense than the Lions.
right. But also at the same time, when you look at the offenses, I mean, look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. Holy shit,
Yeah.
he is a true legit number one for them.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was around for a while with Jared Goff, but then Campbell comes in and just completely 180s his career.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, that offense is clicking on all cylinders right now, and they have a nice defense over there. So it's a good matchup. Should it come to that?
So you're saying the Lions and the Packers in the NFC.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and that would be a freaking war.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I mean, listen, I would be happy no matter who represents the NFC in the Super Bowl or in the conference championship. I really wouldn't be. I would be very, very happy for all four teams or for all eight
Mhm.
teams that are still remaining in the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah. And Brad actually comments in the chat again. He said, and he actually thinks, plus for promotional purposes, what makes a better Cinderella story coming back to win it all after being counted out, referring to the Bills. That's a true statement.
I think they could do it. I really do. I think that a lot of people are writing on the narrative, and I've heard this phrase a lot before we move on to the next segment, is I've heard the story of the greatest story ever told. A team
Mhm.
that went through adversity within the last few years, and they got hot at the right time, and they're carrying a monster amount of momentum going
Yeah,
into Sunday in Orchard Park.
yeah. And the Bills
If
had to beat
and
some
if
really good teams.
And guess what? It feels very differently this year than it did last year. Because if you compare last year's game when they lost to Cincinnati, there was no gasp of air. All the oxygen, all the momentum that they had last season completely collapsed.
Hmm.
And they almost blew it to the Dolphins.
Right.
So for the Bills, they barely beat Miami. And there was just a drench of just downward spiral right after that. And then, of course, everybody was saying it was because of Diggs. That's not the case. Looking back on it, that was all Ken Dorsey. And then
Hmm.
firing him was a huge blessing for the Bills.
Yeah.
They literally fired the guy, and they were thinking with Brady, all right, he's got some collegiate experience. Let's see what he can do in the pros. And he completely, changed an identity
He
in Buffalo.
180 that offense.
He did. And it's also gotten to the point where they're almost copying what the Eagles did with the tush push. Instead of the tush push, it's the Buffalo bobsled.
Right. Yeah. And look at how many fourth and ones and fourth and twos we've been able to convert. Very
Dude, they're
simple.
on and the run game too. That's gotten a lot better too.
Massive improvement. Massive improvement because now you have James Cook, a legitimate threat on the field.
Absolutely. And I don't see Brady leaving anytime soon.
No, I think he's practically earned it. I mean, when you won 6 out of the last 7 games, and especially with at least 3 of them being extremely good quality opponents, yeah, it was a huge difference.
Yeah, and if they win the Super Bowl this year, and I'm hoping and I really do hope they do it. And I hope they do it, and I think they can do it. If they win the Super Bowl, forget it. Brady is on board as the interim tag's going to come off.
Yep. Yep. 100% right.
I think it comes off regardless.
Yeah. He's done enough to prove it, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody in Buffalo, they feel the energy with this team. They really do. Compared to Dorsey, which it was more, bland, stale, statements. And they
Mhm.
made a huge statement against Pittsburgh, honestly. They
Yeah.
told everybody that we're still competitive enough to win the Super Bowl, and they are competitive enough to rival up with Kansas City. They're
Mhm.
good enough to beat the Eagles. They're good enough to beat the Cowboys. They're good enough to compete with the best, and they can prove it. And they've done it time and time again.
Yeah. Yep. Very true. So with that, we'll see what happens. But I mean, we only got about 20 minutes in the show left. So, let's just go right into hockey. And we'll start off with, obviously, the Sabres game was postponed tonight due to weather. So of course our friends in the city and the South Towns, stay safe and hope you're doing all right. Sabres have been up and down again, and we knew this was going to happen. I mean, they lost 1-0 to Vancouver back on the 13th, which Vancouver's a great team. And they actually did play fairly well. And then, of course, you beat the Sharks, which obviously you're supposed to beat the Sharks 3-0.
Well,
So
well, they
that's
also shut them out too, so that kind
yep,
of helps.
yep, exactly. UPL having good games again. So this team
I,
is
I
so
my
up and
energy
down.
is up and down. I feel like I'm going through a really shitty divorce with the Sabres. And don't get me wrong, I love the Sabres. I take a lot of pride as a fan from being in Long Island. However, just the losing is just so much, and they put so much weight on people. Like it's
Mhm.
ridiculous with how bad they've been.
Yeah, it's nuts. It
It
really
almost
is.
makes me at a point where I feel like I should stop giving a shit less. It's more of like, oh, cool, the Sabres are on. And I'm not looking forward to it like I used to. Like when they were good,
Mhm.
and everybody was looking forward to it. But when, like now at this stage with this core, I said this back a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
They stopped giving a shit when they got paid, and it clearly shows. And Darlene got hurt, Samuelson got hurt, Skinner got hurt, Oposo got hurt for a bit. There was just a lot of problems in Buffalo right
Yeah.
now. It's like it's insane.
It is. And they've got to start doing some things about it. And I mean, the bottom line is this: if you can't, I mean, you might have to look at doing a coaching change. You might have to. I mean, there might not be any other way around it. And I get Granado's good to a point with developmental coaching, but at the same time, when is enough in terms of where we're at? And I think we're at the point. Get someone like a Gallant. He's probably one of my first choices. Get someone like a Boudreaux. Get somebody in here that's going to light a fire under their ass and make them show up. And if it's something where if this core can't do it, then get another freaking core. But you
That
got to light
too.
a fire under them because right now, I am not 100% convinced that this core of players that's here, once they signed that big ass contracts that they did, I'm not convinced that they're the right core. I mean, honestly, what I would like to see is a hell of a lot more grit, which it seems like the only players that typically tend to do that are more along the lines of Greenway and, of course, Benson. But you got in Cousins to a point, but you gotta have toughness. You gotta have grit. You can't be afraid to hit people in the corners. You can't be afraid to drop the gloves and fight. You basically stop acting like a pussy on the ice and actually grow a set and start hitting people. I mean, how is that too much to fucking ask?
It's logic hockey 101. You know who this reminds me of too? This reminds me of the fucking Islanders. That's who this reminds me of. The Islanders are in the same situation, except it's not with 20-year-olds. It's with geriatric mid to late 30-year-olds who can't skate anymore. And they constantly juggle the lines and they get blown the fuck out by teams they were expected to beat. Like Minnesota. The other day, the Islanders were playing the Wild, and I forget his name. Jesper Wallstedt, that's his name. The rookie goalie for the Minnesota Wild
Mhm.
posted a fucking shutout in his first
Yeah,
game
good job,
against the
Islanders.
against the fucking Islanders. Like, does this team like not give me an anxiety attack? I mean, Jesus Christ, I would expect more out of them if they were actually committed to winning. But
Mhm.
the problem I have with the Sabres, on the other hand, holy shit, dude. I
Yeah,
can't. I cannot comprehend this because first of all, I agree with you on the whole stat of, oh, they need toughness, they need to be gritty. Stop being a bunch of fucking milk drinkers and grow some balls and start hitting. And it's like, come on. I mean, how much more are you going to put the fans through? It's like you have the talent to get you into the playoffs,
Mhm.
but the coaching is wrong on this
They're
end.
severely underperforming.
You're
And
underachieving too.
yeah, I mean, these players are capable of way more than what they're showing right now. Way more. And that's why I'm thinking if you get rid of Granado and you bring in someone like a Gallant, look at what Gallant did in his first couple years with Vegas before he got shit canned by management because he wasn't good enough for their standards. And Vegas was not a bad team.
But Vegas also won a cup without him.
True, but they also went to the Stanley Cup playoffs in their very first year when they bought all those players in the draft. But
Oh, believe me, I remember that for sure.
yeah, but at the same time, I mean, Gallant got a lot out of that team. And Gallant is somebody when he had those players in that, especially that first year. And when you look at this at season two with him at the helm, they were hitting, they were fighting, they were battling down low, they were controlling the neutral zone, they were controlling the areas down low. They were controlling everything that they needed to do. And the only reason Vegas ended up taking a hit is because of the fact that they had injuries pile up upon injuries. But Vegas is a physical team. That's what they started as, and that's what they continue to be. And yet you have great goal scoring, you have great goaltending involved, and they have some depth on there that's really good, but they didn't let people push them around. And then if you look at what's happened, especially when there was that series with Colorado last year, oh man, that was the series to watch.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Those two
Vegas
teams
was
fucking hate each other.
as much as I don't care for Jack Eichel, as much as I don't care for Vegas, like oh my god, they're the best team in the world. They earned that cup. They fought for that cup, and they wanted it so
Oh
bad.
yeah, and that
They
Western Conference is a physical conference.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And look at Vegas. If you compare Vegas to Buffalo, Vegas is a newer team in the NHL, and they're still relatively young. And you know what's embarrassing? An expansion team did more in a half a decade in their entire existence
Yeah,
than the fucking Sabres have in the last 12 years.
yeah. Vegas wins a cup in less in 5 years.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That is embarrassing. That is a fucking joke, okay? That is a joke that a team who had no business of existing wins the Stanley Cup before the Buffalo Sabres.
Mhm.
And what's even more embarrassing is I'm already up to here now. I'm at like 98%. I'm so done with Kevin Adams. I really am. I am so done with this. Oh, we gotta develop the players vibe. We want to bring in people who want to be here. Who the fuck wants to be there when your best trade in the last 5 years was trading for Jordan Greenway? And don't even bring me to the point of Devin Levi, okay? Devin
Oh
Levi
God.
should be in the AHL right now, okay?
He
That
should
guy
be
should
playing
not
games in
be.
Rochester, and he should be getting developmental time in Rochester.
He should be, and that's the problem. They don't have the balls to say, Devin, we want you to develop, we want you to be a great goalie. You have to go to Rochester. They are so stubborn to the core. And you know what? Kevin Adams has the audacity, and it's his responsibility to tell him to his face, look at me. This is not a punishment. You have to go to Rochester. You are going to play and in the NHL level, and you will get called up. We love you. We want you to be here. Just go down to Rochester, and I promise you it will pay off.
Mhm.
That
Yep.
would have been as simple as that. But no, they want to be a team on a narrative. And the narrative is they want to bring in a college goalie who's never played professional hockey directly from college. Like, hello, this is not the fucking NFL. You don't draft a quarterback and expect him to be amazing off the start. You don't
Right.
do that.
Yeah.
Same in the NHL. You don't draft goalies out of college and just expect them to be in the lineup.
Yeah. Case in point, Ryan Miller. He played in the AHL for several seasons before he finally got his full time gig up here.
Seriously, and Ryan Miller turned into a potential Hall of Fame
Yeah,
goalie.
one of the greatest North American goalies that's been in existence. You look at
I
Patrick Waugh, he played in the minors. You look at players like Brodeur, he played in the minors.
Billy
All of
Smith
the
played in the
good,
minors.
yeah, all of the good goaltenders played in the minors for several seasons before they got the full-time gigs up here in the big clubs. And you know what? They performed well.
Yeah.
You can't just throw Levi to the wolves and expect him, oh, he's just gonna fight through it.
No, he's not.
No, he's not, because you have no fucking defense.
And one other thing too that really pisses my blood to a boil is why the fuck are they constantly scratching Ryan Johnson? I
I
don't
literally
get it.
want to bash my head against the desk whenever that happens, because there's no sane reason to scratch him. There is none. Why the hell do you trade for him if you're not going to play him?
To be fair, he was drafted and it was part of the Vander Kane deal.
Whatever the fuck happened. I don't give a shit
I
at this
know, I
point.
get it. I get what you're saying, but and you know what's going to be really, really stupid is
Mhm.
every time now we're going to hear this from them the next few months. They're going to huff and puff and say, this is unacceptable. Yeah, you know what's unacceptable is your fucking lack of accountability. That's what's unacceptable.
Exactly. Okay. If I had to mention something to Bagula, here's what I would do. Pagula, you've seen what happens when you let football people run the Bills. You're having a great stretch of success right now. You've kept your hands off that team. You need to start doing that with the Sabres. Let actual good hockey people run the team, do your drafting, and keep your hands out of it and just pay the bills. That's all you got to do. That's all you
Really.
got to do. And
What?
if I'm you, Terry Pagula, here's what I would also say: fire Kevin Adams, fire Gallant, and fire them fucking whack ass assistant coaches he has, because obviously we know that Matt Ellis isn't good enough, only playing 340 some regular season games. Because here's the point: here's how you know Matt Ellis sucks. A, he never did anything big in the NHL anyways, and B, another big clue, and this should really stand out there, you end up bringing up Seth Appert from the Amherst a few weeks back when Granato was sick, because you couldn't trust your dumbasses to run the run the team in Granato's absence. You had to bring up an AHL coach who, guess what? He's 1-0 in the NHL now. And he could run a power play.
See, this is what really pisses my blood to a boil about this team. The problem I have with the Sabres is they don't want to accept accountability. They don't want to improve. They want to be lazy. And that's what I really hate about this team because
Mhm.
they and I know I'm just sounding like a broken record, but it's the truth. They don't want to improve. They don't want to show the fans that, hey, we're actually trying. We want to be competitive. You know, teams like Colorado, Vegas, Tampa Bay, um, St. Louis, Washington, teams over the last 6, 7 years all won Stanley Cups. You know why? Because they actually put a good team together and actually brought the goods. They brought home Stanley
They don't
Cups.
wait for mediocrity to set in. They don't. And if something's going bad, they change it. It's like the episode of The Simpsons that reminds me of this one time about Kevin Adams, where basically someone's talking to him, and it was like the scene where Homer has like the freaking monkey in his brain, like clapping cymbals against each other.
Oh God, I remember that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like Adams, grow some balls, fire Granado, fire the assistant coaches, get somebody in here like a Gallant who actually can develop a player and who actually has accountability. Is that too much to ask?
You want to know something, Tom? What's really fascinating about all this
Mm-hmm.
is if you remember when we went to Cincinnati, the Edmonton Oilers fired Jay Woodcroft because they thought he was the problem. And yet they were losing. They were one of the worst teams in the NHL early on in the season. And guess what? They bring in Chris Nolbach from the New York Rangers, from the Hartford Wolfpack. Okay. They
Mm-hmm.
bring him up. And then all of a sudden, they start winning games. And I think if I remember correctly, the Edmonton Oilers are currently on an 11 game win streak, and they are 1 point or maybe tied for the second wild card in the Western Conference in the playoffs. And I'm almost positive that that was the case in Edmonton. Was McDavid was going to get pissed off. He was going to request a trade if things didn't improve. And what did they do? They fired Woodcroft, who was one of the hottest coaching prospects in the NHL 2, 3 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. And now they have this nobody who apparently was an assistant with Dave Haxtell in Philly when I was in college, and that was a
Mm-hmm.
decade ago.
Yeah. And actually, you're right. They've won the last 11 straight.
And that's including beating the Toronto Maple Leafs the other day.
Yeah. Yeah. 24-15-1 with 49 points. And basically, with they have a plus 23 goal differential now.
Hey, Sabres, you want to take notes? Because this is actually how you turn around a franchise.
Exactly. And then speaking of the Sabres, we're basically next to last place in the Atlantic. So we're 19-21-4 with 42 points, minus 13 goal differential right now on a 1-game winning streak. The only team we're above is the Senators. I mean, Pagula, how much losing can you take with the Sabres when you said day one, our sole existence is to bring a Stanley Cup? Oh, we're going to go ahead and get all these players. Oh, let's go ahead and we'll hire Tim Murray. Oh, let's hire Pat LaFontaine. Let's hire Ted Black. What the hell did that get you?
Nowhere. Okay,
Exactly.
I'm going to say this now. Hiring Tim Murray was a colossal mistake. And I
Yeah,
used to like Tim Murray,
I
okay?
did too because he was the anti Darcy Regier.
At that time, yeah.
That's the only reason. But
And
he
you know what's
majorly
bad?
screwed up the team though.
And you know what's bad when Pat LaFontaine resigns after 4 months of being the president of hockey operations. When Pat LaFontaine was the poho of the Sabres, I genuinely thought
Yeah.
they were going to have an identity at that time. And I'm thinking, oh, cool, Pat LaFontaine, he's going to bring in players. Things are going to be great. Nope. They bring in Tim Murray, who had a bigger ego than Pat LaFontaine, and they
Mm-hmm.
both get canned. And then
Yeah.
you bring in another bigger egotistic coach in Dan
Yep.
Bilesma. And
Who
by the
also got
way,
canned?
yeah, and he got canned. So the cycle just keeps going and going and going
Yep.
and going. And I feel like the Pagulas are more interested in sucking dick with the alumni than they are of actually developing
Yeah.
players.
It's bad, man. It's
It
bad.
really is. I mean, holy shit.
Yeah. I was gonna
And
say in that game that we watched a few weeks ago when we actually left with like 2:30 left in the second period, that
yeah,
that I did think back to like other games I've gone to, and I've been to some great games. I've been to some really bad games. And then at the time I was thinking, okay, that's gotta be easily top three, top five worst all time. But then thinking back, I'm like, okay, even in the worst all-time games I've ever gone to and seen, even a couple with Doug, our friend, we have never left earlier than like midway towards the end of the third period. For us to leave with 2:30 left in the second because it was that bad, and when the entire arena was quiet and there was like literally nobody in there, that tells you something. I mean, it's pathetic. That's the earliest I've ever left a game. And that by
yeah, that's a
default is the number one worst all-time game I've ever seen.
I wish there was a I wish I really wish there was a way for me to quit this team, but unfortunately I cannot do that because number one, we would all look like bandwagon fans and we would not be loyal at fault. But I mean, technically, because I do live in Long Island and I am an Islander fan,
Mhm.
but at least I have something I can put my head over when I go to sleep at night. But holy shit, the Sabres pissed me off so much. I
Yeah.
cannot fucking fathom with this team. I really cannot. It is a fucking joke that we're sitting here still talking about them because it's so embarrassing that they don't want to admit the change. They just
Mm-hmm.
don't. They want to be a
Right.
yacht club.
Yeah, it's like the good old boys network is what they call it. Okay, here's an idea. All right, so anyone who's following us and watching us on any of our platforms, here's an idea. Go to change.org, start a petition, and tell the Sabres that you want Bob and myself as GM and president of hockey operations, and we'll write the ship in less than 2 years.
You know what? I would probably be a really good general manager.
Yeah, because you don't take shit from anybody, and neither do I.
Well, that's the thing. I would also be aggressive in trades, free
Mhm.
agents. You would be the
Yeah.
guy that would dictate everything to behind the bench. I'd be like,
Mhm.
"Hey, I'm trading for this guy. Let's put it together."
Right, exactly. There we go.
Like,
Yeah,
why don't they just hire us? Seriously.
yeah, and we probably wouldn't even need like, yeah, we could do it for like 75% of whatever they're paying these other guys.
I would do it for free and I would put more heart and more passion than those guys.
Well, exactly. And here's the thing. We're actual hockey fans. We don't want a substandard product.
No,
We're sick of a substandard product.
it's insane.
It
And
is. It is. Exactly.
you know who
So
also was tired of mediocre hockey? Elvis Merzlikins. It was so bad he requested a trade from Columbus the other day.
yeah, what does that tell you? Same
It
thing.
tells you a lot. The Jackets have no identity, and they spent $7 million on Johnny Gaudreau, and you're bound to lose Elvis
Mhm.
Merzlikins.
Exactly. Exactly. And then Sierquist got traded. So
Yeah, that's nothing.
yeah.
God, I'm gonna miss future considerations. He's been traveling everywhere.
Yeah, really. And then of course, speaking of the trade deadline, are the Sabres gonna do anything? Probably not,
I
because
I
they don't
think they're
have the
gonna
balls.
no. I also think that they're gonna start selling because a lot of players that are. To be honest with you, I would not be shocked if they both buy in the trade deadline and they sell. I wouldn't be surprised if they sell Eric Johnson and trade him to a contender, like maybe going back to Colorado. Maybe a contender like Vegas, I think would take him on.
Yeah,
Boston, unfortunately, that would just be really shitty.
right.
But I'm just telling the truth as it is. And Kyle Oposo, oh dude, that guy needs to fuck off tomorrow, honestly.
Just let him go already. He's not captain material. He never has been captain material. He never will be captain material, even if he had his left nut removed. He's not captain material.
The whole team is not captain material. The
Exactly.
closest one, probably, in my personal opinion, is Rasmus Dahlin.
Right, because he's actually not afraid to mix it up, and he actually is one of the. He actually is the leading scoring defenseman.
That's a, and he's going to the All Star game. I mean,
Yeah,
God forbid he has to wear a bag of Doritos at the All Star game.
yes, seriously.
Seriously, those jerseys are so ugly.
Yeah, I
It's very
agree.
cartoony. So they add the Carl's Jr. logo as their logo for the All Star game, and they also make it more insulting by making the jerseys look like a bag of Doritos in multiple various colors.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of this sound clip that's on good old Smoke and Scan. I watch a couple times a week on YouTube. It's like, Carl's Jr. Fuck you. I'm eating.
I mean, it's bad, man. It's real. I
Oh,
really do hope the Sabres do put a good team together. I
I do.
really do. But I'm just, I how am I supposed to be happy about this?
You shouldn't be. I mean,
I'm not happy.
any legit fan is not happy with the Sabres and how they're performing right now. And the good thing is, you and myself, we're not. Our fan base here on Facebook, Spotify, and YouTube, I know they're not. Mike Bauer
Reminds
is
me of
definitely not happy because I saw that in the comments earlier about why would you want to watch a team that doesn't even want to play? And he brings up a good point.
It reminds me of the Pirates, the Pittsburgh Pirates. They are in the same morality as the Sabres. They haven't made the playoffs since 2015. So they were in the wild card against the Reds. But Bob Dunning's a cheap ass, and he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't care about the product on the field. He just only cares about the bottom line. The
Exactly.
Buffalo Sabres are in the same situation.
Yeah. You have one team that's doing good. You have the other team that's basically, for all pun intended, the redheaded stepchild of the Pagula organization.
It's funny because Britt always makes the joke about the Bills being model citizens in the city of Buffalo. I mean, it's true. She's not
Yeah.
wrong.
Right. Yeah. Basically, the Bills are the alpha dog. The Sabres are the bitch.
Really, the Bills, literally, like you just said, are the alpha male, and the Sabres are that prostitute that loves to get gonorrhea and chlamydia and loves to
Mm-hmm.
get dicks up their ass.
Yeah. All for $5 in the corner of Genesee and Bailey.
Yeah, if they were like a real team like the Bills were, this would not even be a conversation.
Yeah. Seriously. And of course, Detroit just scored again.
And it's 2-2 for those who are wondering.
Yep.
But no, seriously, it's so embarrassing that you and I, as fans, have no choice but to sit through this bullshit every year and have to always complain about the team and the direction and the executive department. And I am so tired of this because I'll tell you this right now. I was not a fan of Granado when he was the assistant coach for Ralph Kruger.
Mm-hmm.
I liked him in his last year. I did. I was hooked on to Granado. I genuinely thought, okay, they
Yeah.
might actually do something with him. Then this year they fall down to shit.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, they have no sense of direction. It's like, when are they
Mm-hmm.
gonna stop being shit for once?
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing, and I remember Granato said this prior to the season. He said, "Okay, well, last year was our developmental phase. Now I'm going to coach them differently." Well, obviously, it's not working.
Jesus Christ. And you know what? If you have a head coach in the NHL who's not even head coaching material to begin with, telling you that to the public, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was gonna say, if you guys want, fill out a petition at change.org. Let's get us in there. We'll change it around.
Yeah, please do. If you can get Tom Bujak and Bob Hansen as GM and coach combo over at Buffalo Dark, we will be the assistant, we will be the GM and the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres.
There you go. Yeah, we'll change it around. We'll light a fire under their ass. Actually, no, GM and president of hockey operations. Let's call it at that. We'll hire Gerard Gallant as our first hire.
Yeah, or yeah, I would be up for that. Bruce Boudreaux would be my good choice as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I would totally be cool with them.
if he's cool with the coaching with it, though, of course.
Yeah,
But I don't know. Like,
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
And we would not be afraid to yell at people in the locker room either.
I wouldn't
And
be
rip them
either.
a
I'd
new
be
one.
like, guys, get your shit together.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's not difficult.
Can we get Gordon Ramsay to be the coach?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
he would be saying something completely
That'd be
outrageous. He'd be
great.
like, "Your skating and your defensive play is no better than my grandma, and she's fucking dead. Now fuck off."
Yeah, seriously.
Oh my
Oh, that would be
god,
hilarious.
it would be, but that will never happen. So
Right.
screw that.
But yeah, if you want us to run a team, hey, fill out a petition. Let's get like a few signatures and all's good. So
Please, I would love to do that. If you
yeah.
guys can do that for us, that would be great. But
Right.
I don't know, man. I feel like we're going
Yeah.
backwards here at this
I
point, just
know.
talking back and forth about it. It's blatantly obvious what's going on with the Sabres.
Yeah, same here. Same here. And of course, just got a message, Alicia and Sophia. Nice to hear from you guys today, also. And we'll reschedule our weekend and all that fun stuff. We'll do lunch, but glad to hear you guys are doing all right though. So with
Yeah.
that, I know we went a few minutes over. I don't care that we went over. We got out what we needed to say.
Oh God, dude,
It
I'm so
was,
pissed off.
yeah, we needed to
uh
say some things that needed to be said. And there are times that happens.
oh, believe me. Listen, I could write a book about this bullshit if I if I really, really wanted to.
Oh yeah, same here, same here. Actually, maybe one of these days what I should do is get my dad on the show for a little bit and have him join us, because he could tell you some old school Buffalo Junior Sabres stories when he used to beat the hell out of people on the ice and play with a broken fist.
That would be fun.
Yeah, talk about hockey the way it was meant to be back in the day.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, good times. But no, good show. I know we didn't get to, well, actually we did cover everything we wanted to, just a little differently, but no, it's good. So of course, with that, with everyone dealing with the snow, good luck to you all, and just take it easy, don't do anything crazy. And really from there, of course, join us next week, and we'll keep you updated on some of the different news going on. But in the meantime, let's call it a show. So that being said, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you next week.
Be safe out there, guys.